What is up, Entre Nation? Jeff Lerner here, and today I just want to share some millionaire advice for the 20-year-olds out there. And first off, if you don't know who I am, you might be wondering, why is this guy sharing millionaire advice? Well, I've been a successful entrepreneur for over a decade now, and I have generated almost $50 million in total sales on the internet as of the time I'm shooting this video. And I'm not saying all this to gloat, although I'm certainly proud of what I've accomplished. I am saying this to hopefully inspire and to prove to you that massive success is possible, even in my case, without ever having a job. And it didn't just magically happen. Money did not just fall from the sky. I just learned how to use my money wisely, use my time wisely, and develop the right skills. I studied hard. I learned what works and what doesn't. I used trial and error, but I also tried to find amazing mentors to copy and learn from. And that's what I want to talk to you about here. So go ahead, if you would, and subscribe to this channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell for future updates, and let's get into it. The first tip that I have is developing a good money mindset. Let's start with the basics. It doesn't matter whether you live at home, you're in college, or you're renting your first apartment. The most important thing to know is that you have the power to be rich or to be poor. And what I mean is, you don't need to worry about your background. You don't get to blame your family. You don't get to pin it on anyone else for not giving you money or enough of a start. The best thing about the world we live in now is that you can learn to act like a millionaire and ultimately become a millionaire. And by the way, I don't mean blowing money. We'll talk about that. I just mean becoming totally independent with your finances, not only in how you behave, but how you think. Not relying on anyone to bail you out. Millionaires read books about money. Millionaires study money. They learn from other millionaire mentors. They attend seminars. They buy courses. They are focused on having money and not losing money. That's one of the biggest things about becoming wealthy, is you actually have to make money a huge focus of your life. And when you do that, you can be wealthy too. You know, Bill Gates, one of the richest people in the world, has a great quote. He says, "It is not your fault if you were born poor, but it is your fault if you die poor." So stay tuned through this whole video, because I am going to show you how. And honestly, if you don't have 10 or 15 minutes or however long this video ends up being to commit to watching this video, then let's face it, you probably won't have a very good chance of any of these tactics working anyway. Along those lines, I have a whole video just about money mindset. I'll put a link in the description below. The second piece of advice that I have for 20-year-olds is to spend 10% and save 10%. And I know it's exciting to get paid. What's up? I got paid. I can blow my money. But as tempting as it may be to spend it all, that is not going to make you wealthy in the long run. It is not going to make you a millionaire. You're not supposed to spend 100% of your salary and just live day to day, paycheck to paycheck. What about a rainy day? What about an emergency? What about investing your money? What about saving up for the finer things? It actually does rain. People always say, what about a rainy day? Well, I don't know, look outside. Occasionally it rains. I know it's boring. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not fun. It's not even consistent with youth culture. But I promise you from experience, it is not boring and lame to have 10% saved up for an emergency and feel this like security blanket in life because you have that. It is not boring. It is not lame. It is liberating, because anything can happen. Let's say your water heater goes out. Let's say your car transmission goes out. I've had to fire people because they couldn't get to work anymore because they lost their transportation and they couldn't afford to get it fixed. And they come to me and say, "Can I borrow money?" I'm like, "I'm not a bank. I'm an employer. You'll get it on your next paycheck, but I can't be there." These things happen, and it's sad and it sucks and it's hard, but at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to prepare yourself. So what I'm saying here is, it's fine to have fun with 10% of whatever you earn, but you don't get to have more fun than 10% of whatever you earn can provide. That's the discipline. Navy SEALs say it. We achieve freedom through discipline. So enjoy that 10%, but save another 10% for emergencies. The freedom that's going to come from that, and not relying on other people to borrow from, is a huge stepping stone to becoming a millionaire. You're learning financial freedom. And I'll also add here that if your family or someone does help you out financially, that's okay, but you have to live without the expectation or the need. I'll mention in the description below, I'm gonna put a much more extensive video that I also put together about budgeting your money. Feel free to click that and you can go in more depth on this subject. The third piece of advice that I have for you is to leverage credit.
Wait, Dave Ramsey told me not to have any debt.
If you're gonna think like a wealthy person, if you're gonna think like a business person, you're gonna think like an investor, you're gonna learn how to leverage credit, or what Robert Kiyosaki calls good debt. For most young people, that's really a question of, should I get a credit card or not? The answer is yes, but only if you can pay it back monthly, only if you can develop the discipline. I don't like excusing people from doing the right thing because they don't have the discipline. That's not a good strategy. It's not a good strategy to go, well, I don't have the discipline, so I shouldn't do the right thing. Develop the discipline to do the right thing. And for young people, you should have a credit card. You should be building credit. You should be increasing your borrowing capacity. But the only way to do that is to actually be paying it off on a consistent basis and not get yourself in trouble. That's why I recommend getting a credit card, so you can actually start building credit. Banks don't want to loan money to people who've never borrowed money. They don't want to loan a lot of money to people who've never demonstrated that they can pay back a little bit of money. So start now with a credit card, and this will help you so much later when you're ready to start investing. Credit or debt, if you're on the receiving end, provides you leverage so that you can start later in life to actually invest. Most investors use debt as an asset in their business. And here's the number one thing you have to realize about credit cards. They are not your friends. Okay? Yes, they help you buy some things. Like if you're, out with a friend and you're like, oh, I forgot my wallet, can you cover lunch? They'll help you buy lunch. But your friend probably isn't sitting there going, okay, well, so right now today I just loaned you $15 for lunch. Tomorrow it's gonna be $16. The next day it's gonna be $17. The next day it's gonna be $18. Friends don't stick you with paying them back at high interest rates. Credit cards do. So you have to realize they are not your friends. They are there only to serve you. Don't allow yourself to be put in a situation where you serve them. The hack is only use a credit card to buy something that you already know you can pay back in full. And the easiest way to do that is just don't buy things that you can't afford. Don't buy things that you couldn't afford, even if you didn't have the credit card. You're just cycling your money through the credit card. You're not using the credit card to create money that you don't already have. If you're interested in this subject, I'll put another video in the description below. I have an extensive video, I have multiple videos, but I'll pick one and put it down there about building and leveraging credit the right way. Okay, number 4 is to start early. A lot of people think that saving up for $1 million seems like an insurmountable goal, but it is totally achievable, especially if you start early. I know in your 20s, and I don't want to project, but I know how I was in my 20s, and I know how my friends were in their 20s, and I assume being in your 20s hasn't changed that much. You're kind of fixated on the here and now. You're kind of fixated on having fun. A psychologist, who's my therapist, actually explained this to me once. The node in your brain that actually projects long-term consequences doesn't even actually fully mature until you're 24. So you're kind of screwed. You have a running start into your 20s where you still have a teenage brain, but you have all these adult opportunities, and it's kind of, a formula for disaster. So it's not your fault, but it is your problem. Don't be so fixated on the here and now. Realize you have an opportunity. You're at the best time to start becoming a millionaire. $1 million is only $200 a day for 10 years. So you just got to figure out how to make a couple $100 a day, and with the power of compounding over time, over 10 years, you'll literally have $1 million. If you're 20 and you figure out how to make a couple $100 a day extra, which is easy to do with online side hustles and businesses and things I talk about all the time on my channel, you'll literally have $1 million free and clear when you're 30 years old. How many 30-year-olds have an extra $1 million laying around from their job? That's why I talk so much about entrepreneurship, starting a business, creating a side hustle, all this good stuff. Let's do a quick example. So say you're 22 and you put away $250 a month. You might be thinking, well, $200 a day is way too much. I can't save that much. Well, actually you can if you learn how to increase your income. But let's say that we go with the whole I can't make $200 a day thing. If you can just put away $250 a month, then by the time you're 65, you'll have $1 million. And I know that by the time you're 65, $1 million isn't gonna be worth as much as it is now. So let's talk about how to increase that even more. In that same example, if you wanted to reach $1 million by 65, but let's say you're 35, then you need to put $700 a month away. So think about that. Starting at 25 costs you $250 a month. Starting at 35 takes $700 a month to achieve the same result. That's the power of starting early. If you start early, it will be so much easier. But again, if you don't want to wait until you're 65, I'm going to give you the best ways to reach millionaire status by the time you're 30. And before I do that, if you're interested in more specific information about investing, especially for beginners, I have a whole video about it. I'll put the link in the description below. So the fifth piece of advice for people in their 20s, assuming you want to be a millionaire someday, is saving up the money to make strategic investments. If you want to learn how to become a millionaire, you have to know the difference between saving and investing. It's very difficult to save your way to being a millionaire. You have to save up money and then turn around and deploy that money into strategic investments. That's how you become a millionaire. So we talked about saving 10% for an emergency, but that's really money that you won't use unless you have to. That's not the same money that you would use for investment. So you'll need to save up another 10% or even 20% of your income with the idea of using these savings to invest. So when you're saving that money, you're most likely going to want to put it into a low risk vehicle such as a savings account that's insured. If you're in the US, it's FDIC insured. But again, it's harder to save up a significant amount when you're just earning a low rate of return. So these next few tips will highlight some other investment vehicles. So number 6 is you can try investing in a Roth IRA. This is the easiest starting point, and it's basically an investment fund for your retirement. And it's set up with some tax benefits that help you save up more money specifically for your retirement when you turn 65. Now, I know you're probably not thinking of retirement when you're in your 20s, but I promise you should be, because I know people who didn't and they're screwed now. So follow along with my next example and let me explain why you should set up or consider investing in a Roth IRA. Let's say you started out at 16 years old. You got your first job and you opened a Roth IRA. And you contributed the max, which I believe is $5,500 into the account each year up to age 30, earning a 6% annual return. Well, that's going to give you a little over $122,000 at the age of 30. And I know that's not $1 million, but keep listening. Now, let's say when you're 22, you get your first professional job and your employer offers a 401k matching worth 100% of the first 6% of contributions that you make. And that's a pretty standard deal with a decent employer. So you then contribute 37% of, say, a $50,000 salary. Well, with a 2% annual raise and a 6% annual rate of return, you would now have over $216,000 in your plan by age 30. So far, you've accumulated more than a third of your $1 million goal. You had the original savings plus now the 401k matching savings. Put them together, you're over $300,000 towards your $1 million goal. Well, if you continue saving at the same pace, earning that same rate of return, you will easily have $1 million by age 40. I'm 41. Trust me, it is awesome having $1 million by age 40. I know people who don't, that are 50, that are 60, that are 70, that are 80, that never did. And life is harder. All these people, you're young and they say, oh, money doesn't buy happiness. Let me tell you this. Money doesn't buy happiness, but money creates an environment and a whole lot of circumstances in which it is a lot easier for happiness to blossom. Like, to use an analogy that I just made up off the top of my head. Money may not cause the plants to bloom, but money pays for the garden. By age 65, in the example that I just gave you, you would actually have over $6 million. And that's what I'm talking about. Frankly, $1 million ain't what it used to be. $1 million, and depending on what city or where you live in the world, $1 million isn't even enough to retire for, I would argue, for a lot of people, maybe the majority of people. So I know what you're thinking though. You might be like, well, I'm 65, I'm 22 or 21 or 19. I don't know. 65 might as well be on another planet. It's too far away. So you want it even sooner? Let's keep talking. So the number 7 strategy is to diversify your income streams. And this is where I get really excited because I teach entrepreneurship, I teach starting a business, I teach the side hustle life, like getting all these things going. Honestly, if I had my way, everybody might do a job, but they would be going through life with job optional. Find a job you love, do it if you want to do it, but don't need it. It's not having a job that sucks, it's needing a job that sucks. I think that it is really important in the world we live in to get a few side hustles happening so that money can flow to you in many ways. Great option, a great starting point is to do something like freelancing on a site like Fiverr.com. You got skills. If you got even through high school, you have some basic skills. You know how to write, maybe you know how to design stuff, maybe you know how to format stuff, maybe you know how to transcribe stuff, you even know how to computer code a little bit of stuff. They teach that in schools nowadays. Even health, fitness, sports, athletics, working out, just maybe anything you know, maybe you could turn it into a online course. If you have, physical products, you could sell them through an e-commerce store. You could do affiliate marketing. There's just so many options, such a ridiculous number of options these days. I swear I see people struggling to make money. I'm just like, I think you might be focusing on the wrong things. It's not that hard. I know affiliate marketers who literally sit around and play video games most of the time. They make, millions of dollars a year. They got 20 million stashed in the bank. They're sitting around playing video games like my kids. Again, the money's out there. You just got to learn all these skills. Great step in that direction could be to go down in the description. By the way, I'm putting a lot of videos in my description on this video. So not surprisingly, I'm putting another one down there called 13 of the best side hustles. Go down, check that out. So let's assume you did all this. You saving 10% for a rainy day, and now you're saving some money to invest. Well, then you can consider buying real estate stocks. Both of those are going to provide over time high return on investment. The key is putting money in that you don't need to get back out right away, because look, you might have a bad month, you might even have a bad year, but compounded over time, those are going to give you a good return on investment, at least based on what's happened for the last 100+ years. There's no guarantees, there's no certainty. I can't pick a stock or pick a metal or pick a baseball card or pick a product or anything and tell you exactly what's going to happen, but the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And for the last 100+ years, anything real estate related has been a good investment. Or how about the stock market? The stock market, along with real estate, has a great track record of historical long-term returns. You could get an index fund. You could get they have what are called target date retirement funds through Vanguard, where you basically buy a fund that's specifically engineered to help you retire by a certain date. Obviously, you'll need to study more about investing. This video is not meant to be an exhaustive study on investing. And by the way, it probably should be obvious, but I'll say it anyways. I'm not giving individual financial advice. I'm not a certified financial planner. I haven't passed my Series 7. I don't want to pass my Series 7. There's plenty of professionals you can pay and hire to do that for you. I'm just giving general education. And then my 8th piece of advice for people in their 20s is to set your wealth goal. You have to have very specific targets. You will never hit a target that you can't see. So you have to define it, you have to put it out there, and you have to aim for it. Self-made billionaires, Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Warren Buffett, by the way, probably all the billionaires, but those are 3 that I know for sure. They always set financial goals and write them down. Richard Branson says, when inspiration calls, you've got to capture it. He walks around with a little notebook just for this purpose. So he's always writing down his financial goals. $1 million may seem like a really big number to you. So first, break it down into smaller goals to make it more manageable. Set a monthly goal, set a quarterly goal, set an annual goal, so that as you work to reach $1 million in savings and investments, you're consistently experiencing what we call small wins. You're reaching this goal, reaching the next goal, reaching the next goal. And then once you start doing that, a lot of times, and this is from my own experience, you realize, hey, wait, that huge goal that I broke down into lots of little smaller goals, now that I'm hitting all those smaller goals, I realize maybe I could shoot bigger. In fact, I remember when I first created my first online course, my first training that I sold online, my goal was to make $1 million selling education online, basically taking stuff that I knew and packaging it and selling it online. Well, I sold $1 million. And I was like, what do I do now? And I was like, I'll try to sell another $1 million. Well, that was about 3.5 years ago. And I've sold over $13 million worth of online courses since then. So what's the goal now? Honestly, I'll keep it to myself, but it's big and I have it written down. Dreams without goals are just dreams. And here's the thing about dreams. We have them when we're asleep. We don't have them when we're actually awake doing anything. Goals are what we go after when we're awake. Dreams are what we have when we're asleep. Write it down, it becomes a goal. My last piece of advice here is to be giving and to be a big thinker. And those very often go hand in hand, because what you'll find is that small-minded, small-thinking people are usually scared to give because they think they're gonna run out. They don't think there's enough. Well, let me tell you a secret. There is no shortage of money on this planet. There is only a shortage of people thinking big enough about how to access it. Literally, the government strokes a pen and they print $1 trillion. That's just the US. They print $1 trillion. They put it out into the money supply. You just have to think big to go after it. And if you do, you'll start finding it all around you. You'll have more than enough. And when you know you're going to have more than enough because you're thinking big enough, then you can be charitable, you can be generous, and know that you're still going to have more than enough to invest. The fact that you're watching this video, the fact that you've made it this far, the fact that you've heard me talk about all this stuff and you haven't clicked off to go watch, PewDiePie rant while he plays video games or whatever, tells me that you might be in the right headspace and you might be on the right track. So congratulations for that. And I will ask you, right along with thinking big comes, like I said, being kind. Might be kind of lame. This might be like the soft, namby-pamby moment of the video, but being kind to people is not only really good because it makes you feel good, it's also really, really great for business. There are people that have stayed loyal to me and worked with me to get through hard times when maybe I couldn't pay them or I couldn't give them the raise that they deserved, or maybe I was going through a tough time and I wasn't even that fun to be around, but they remembered that I had been kind. There's currency in kindness. It's like a bank account. When you're making deposits of kindness into a bank account, then when you need to, you can make a withdrawal. Kindness is a powerful asset. I recommend that you donate around 10% of all your earnings. And most people, I know a lot of people are like, I cannot afford to. They're like, I'm the charity. I need to donate 100% of my earnings to my charity because I can't pay my bills. I get it. But I promise you there is something powerful that happens psychologically when you start giving money. And with that, I want to make sure you're not limiting yourself to $1 million goal. We've talked a lot about $1 million here. We mentioned $10 million. The point is, go big. You know, it's such a cliche. Aim for the stars. If you miss, at least you'll land on the moon. You know, I've made the mistake of setting goals too small. In fact, one guy I listen to a fair amount, don't love everything he says, but I generally agree with his main principles, Grant Cardone. He says, you know, the biggest mistake I made earlier in my career was not thinking bigger sooner. I can relate to that. There's things I'm doing now at 41 that honestly I could have been doing at 30. The technology existed, the opportunity existed, the trends existed, the audience existed, but I didn't start thinking about it till maybe I was 30 or 35. There's things I'm doing now that at least 5 years, I know for a fact I could be 5 years ahead of where I am if I just started thinking bigger sooner. I'm thankful that I started now at 35 or 40 or whenever I really started thinking big. And I didn't wait till I was 50, I didn't wait till I was 60. I know so many people that come through my trainings. Sometimes I talk to them on the phone, I see them in coaching groups, I see them in our Facebook groups, 60, 70, 80 years old, and for the first time in their life, somebody's giving them permission to think big. It's actually tragic. But what I'm gonna say is, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is right now. So wherever you're at, take this permission. If you haven't taken it before, take it now. Permission to think big. There is no limit to your wealth, just your mindset and what you go after. Okay, so I wish you massive success in becoming a millionaire. And if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a like. Thank you in advance, that helps me a lot. And also subscribe to this channel for more videos on investing, entrepreneurship, and ultimately just living your best and most excellent life. And definitely comment below. Let me know what you're getting started on right now to become a millionaire or what you've already been doing. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.